Let's talk about vital moves that you need to do if you're trying to have an easier labor. Hello, my name is Oriana. I'm a pelvic health physical therapist assistant. I love treating that perinatal population and doing birth prep. And I'm in my third trimester myself, about to be due in like any day, any day. And these are moves that I'm doing to open up every single part of the pelvis. And I incorporate it in a way like the mile circuit. And so if you watch one of my previous videos about how to position baby during labor, I'm kind of like adding on to that. And I'll go a little bit more in detail and give you reasons why you want to move your pelvis in different ways. So let's go over why we want to do these movements, why movement is so vital during labor. Well, baby is going to move down through the pelvis. And as you can see, here's the top of the pelvis, and this is going to be the bottom of the pelvis where baby comes out. This is where baby goes in. Baby goes in, baby comes out, right? So you can see that there's an oval that goes one way, right? And then for the part that comes out, there's an oval. So if this is the sacrum from here to here, there's an oval that goes the opposite way. This is more vertical. This is more horizontal. So baby has to do rotations through the pelvis. They have to do these little rotations to be able to get their head through, then their shoulders through, then their head through, then their shoulders through. So being able to position your body in different ways, it literally changes and dictates what is going on in your pelvis, right? We call this the pelvic inlet, where baby's going to enter in. We call this area the mid pelvis, where baby does a lot of those rotations. And then we call this the pelvic outlet, where baby's going to come out, where you're going to push, right? And if you were to imagine, my leg bones are right here. So this is like your hip bone, got leg bone, right? So whenever I turn my legs out, I go through that hip external rotation. So think about like a big squat, like a frog pose. Whenever I do that, it literally opens up. If I do it like this, it literally opens up the top of the pelvis, right? But whenever I do that, it closes. It's kind of hard to imagine right here unless you were to see a lot of little muscles right here, but it basically closes the back of the pelvis. And then whenever I do little like weird shifting motions, right? And I just kind of like do these little weird shifting guys. You can see how that would allow space for baby to move down. Obviously your pelvis doesn't move that drastically, but it does move quite a bit. And then whenever, imagine those leg bones are right here again. Whenever I move my knees together, so knees are together, feet are more apart, so we call that internal rotation. Whenever I move my knees together, it's going to open up more of that back of the pelvis. And you can tell because if you look from this bone to this bone, it opens up the back of the pelvis, right? So being able to have hip external rotation, being able to have mid pelvis, mobility, or what we call like frontal plane mobility, and being able to have hip internal rotation are vital. Not only that, whenever we are pregnant, we tend to go more through an anterior pelvic tilt. So if this is our pelvis right here, this is where the spine is at, this is where the front of your pelvis is at, and this is where baby is at, right? If I go through more of an anterior pelvic tilt right here, it actually closes up that space. If you were to imagine there were little muscles all throughout here, and I go through an anterior pelvic tilt, you can see how the space from here to here decreases. So that makes it tighter. So we want to make sure that we also open up the back of that pelvis and get those posterior pelvic tilts, because then it will open up that back of that pelvis. So movement is key, and a lot of people are missing different parts of their mobility. And like I mentioned before, what is the mile circuit, right? We're gonna add on to that because the mile circuit does a great job at getting baby like deeper into the pelvis. But if you don't have the mobility in other planes of motion, basically all three planes that we move in, if you don't have that mobility, then baby may still get a little bit stuck during their rotations during your labor process. So really quick, what is the mile circuit? It is coined by, I forget her name, and I'll put a little box right here of the two ladies who created it. I'm pretty sure one is a midwife and one is a doula, pretty sure. But one of their last names is Miles, and they created this circuit. It's kind of like spinning babies as well, where you basically go inverted for about 30 minutes, so that way baby can get away from the pelvis. It helps to release the lower uterine ligaments. It allows baby's chin to tuck a little bit. And then you lay on your side for 30 minutes. You maybe on the left side, it could be left side or right side, but that allows the baby's spine, because baby's spine and head are heavy, it allows the baby's spine to go forward to the front of your uterus. That way if you touch your belly, you're like, oh, there's baby's spine right there. I can feel it, right? And then you do the little shifty motions. It's a lot of what we call that frontal plane movement, movement, like big shifty motions. You do that because then it gets baby deeper into that pelvis, putting pressure on the cervix, which can help to release prostaglandins, which can help you dilate and efface and hopefully start labor, hopefully without induction, right? That's kind of like the goal. But like I said, I have a video already about how to do those inversions. What if you can't do inversions, modifications for that, how to lay on your side to kind of get that baby into that good spot for labor. And then you can take this video in conjunction with that, where I take some of the myocircuits frontal plane movement that they do, like walking upstairs and curb walking, but I'm also going to add in all the other planes of motion that you need to make sure that baby can move through the pelvis really well. And again, I'm so pregnant, so getting up and doing this sounds like such a task, but let's do it together. Now I will be using my rebozo for this. The rebozo is a fantastic tool in so many different ways. You can use it for counter pressure. You can use it to lift up the uterus. You can use it whenever you're in labor. You can like throw it over the bar and pull on it as you're pushing. It's just a really, really great tool. I'm out of breath already. But I'm going to use it because I'm going to have it help me facilitate pressure on the cervix. So I wrap it underneath the belly right here. I'm gonna crisscross it in the back. I'm gonna pull it up and then over. So again, if you were to see it from the side, let me make sure that it's like even, getting it underneath that uterus, underneath your belly. And then you're gonna wrap it around your back, pull it up, over, and now it's helping to pull that belly up and in to put pressure on the cervix. So I'm going to do that because whenever baby's head is down and then you have the baby like going vertically like that and you do vertical like load displacement or basically just like up and down motions, then it literally helps the baby release prostaglandins so that way you can hopefully dilate, efface, and maybe start labor. Now, first thinking about that pelvic inlet, that hip external rotation position, right? We're trying to get baby to engage deeper into the pelvis. I'm gonna go ahead, use my rebozo, and I'll bounce up and down on a ball. Again, putting that pressure on that cervix is really, really good. And then from there, I will do that for probably about like 2 minutes or so. And then from there, I will do little pelvic tilts. When I talked about, that posterior pelvic tilt, this is an anterior pelvic tilt. So I'm shortening that pelvic floor tissue, and I don't want to do that. This is a posterior pelvic tilt, and that's going to help to lengthen that pelvic floor muscles so that way they can relax and allow baby to come through. And this is where a lot of people are really tight, and I know how hard it is to have a big belly and to do this. Like, I know how hard it is. But your goal whenever you do this is to inhale through your back right here, or inhale through like your bra line area. So I would go here and then inhale through here and then exhale to come back out of it, and doing that about like 10-15 times. Next up is taking like a stool and sitting down on that stool to do some hip external rotation. You can even use your elbows kind of like in yoga pose, like a little frog pose. And then you can take deep breaths here, so that way it helps baby engage deeper into that pelvis. And then not seen here, but something that I do recommend is pretend that I had a sink right here, like my kitchen sink, and I hooked my hands over that kitchen sink, right? And then here I have my hands over that kitchen sink, and I can just hang down and take nice deep breaths while I just hang and rock side to side in that hip external rotation position, helping baby engage deeper. And I would do either of these, either that little hang or sitting down here for about 10 deep breaths or so. Last thing for that sagittal plane motion, aka that like nice deep, working on that lower back, that posterior pelvic tilt motion, we're gonna grab like a yoga block, or if you don't have a yoga block, you can grab like a really thick book. And then I'm gonna put it underneath one knee. I'm gonna move on over to the, put my weight, my hip is gonna shift over on top of that knee. I'm gonna do little pelvic tilts. Again, I'm gonna inhale whenever I go through this deep, deep pelvic tilt. And I'm gonna exhale whenever I come back to neutral. Hi, doggy. He loves when I'm on the floor. But yeah, I'm gonna inhale here, exhale to come back out. Doing that about 10 times per side. Now, while we're here on the floor with the yoga block, we're gonna start to do some of that frontal plane motion. So frontal plane meaning that I'm moving side to side. This is to get baby through that mid pelvis, that little weird shifty motion, right? So while we're in that yoga block position, or in that, tabletop position with the yoga block, we're gonna go ahead, put our weight over that knee, and then just go back and forth. And if you wanna keep that posterior pelvic tilt, aka that rounding through your back while you do so, then that's good as well. So I'll show you from a different angle. We'll go right here, tuck, and then shift side to side. I'm gonna inhale when my body is over that block. So while we are back on the floor, I'm gonna grab my exercise ball and I'm basically gonna do these little side lunges. I'll probably inhale as I go into it because that relaxes the pelvic floor, exhale as I come out of it. But I'm gonna do so while I'm relaxing on this exercise ball. So I'll be here, I'm gonna inhale as I go into the lunge, exhale as I come out, and I'll probably do about 10 times per side. And the reason why I really suggest that you lean over the ball is because you might use this during labor. So if you practice this motion now, it might be something that you just naturally want to do to help you out whenever you're actually in the throes of a contraction. So putting that rebozo back on, it's now going to be a little bit more upright. You can do some side stepping where you like do a little side step like that. Obviously be careful. If you don't feel safe or if your balance feels really, really off, then you can do a little side step onto that yoga block or onto that book, as long as it's stable. Just a little side stepping. And the reason why I'm not doing the stairs outside just yet is because I want to show you a little posterior pelvic tilt. So again, we're opening up that back as we do it. So you do a little side step, tuck your butt, right? Side step, tuck your butt, doing that about 10 times per side. And then from there, I do curb walking and I also do going up the stairs. And I'm not going to bring my camera and videotape that right now, but I hope to put some pictures up right here of that, where I'm going to go ahead and take one step at a time up the stairs, making sure that I'm nice and careful. And then I'll also do 2 steps at a time. And then I'll go curb walking like a little short distance, maybe about a few minutes or so. And you can do even longer if you want to go on walks and everything. And I hold on to the rebozo the whole time to get that like nice big shifting and also that vertical load distribution through that pelvis. I personally also love to do some little side lunges with the rebozo on, where I'll inhale as I go into the lunge, exhale to come out of it. It's just another way to kind of get baby to engage deeper, another way to get that vertical load, another way to get that weird shifting. It gives me a little bit of a workout because, you know, after the stairs and after the curb walking, I'm kind of in like workout mode. So I'll count that as my workout for the day, depending on how I feel for the rest of the day. So I will do some little side lunging. I may even do some like deep squats, just up and down deep squats while I have the little bit of the energy to do that. And, you know, the more that you keep your endurance up, the better it is to help you out with endurance for labor. So there's that. And then we're going to move on into some hip internal rotation. So a lot of people are lacking that hip internal rotation. One of my favorite ways this pregnancy to really feel that in my own body is to use a ball. So you'll do a little mini squat. You'll have the ball between your knees. Obviously make sure that you're not, you know, super tilted in your pelvis. You're a little bit more neutral in your pelvis, kind of tucked under just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and roll the ball in between my knees. And I'll do this about like 10 times or so. If you start to feel a little bit of like a burn through here, you may be actually loading that hip, but that's going to be okay because that means that you're loading it eccentrically, aka like doing a stretch under load, making it stronger when it's longer. So that's a good thing. So I'll do that about 10 times per side. And then I will also go ahead and do what I call like a pick up and pull or like a row, where I'll be here in this position. I've done this in a lot of my videos during this whole pregnancy because it's actually really vital for your pelvic floor. I'm going to rotate and then come back out. I'm going to inhale when I go into that rotation. So I'll inhale through here, exhale to come out. And so I'm not twisting from my uterus, from my belly, obviously. I'm allowing this hip to go towards that opposite inner thigh. So here, inhale, exhale to come out of it. And then the last of that hip internal rotation, which we need so much for that mobility to allow the back of the pelvic floor to open up, is I'm going to do some like child's pose variation with the ball. So if my feet are in line with my knees right now, I'm going to move my feet out. Now my feet are wider than my knees, as you can see there. And then I'll take the ball, I'll rest on it. So feet are wider than knees. I'm going to tuck my butt, so open up that back, right? And then I'm going to just go back. And what I'll do is I'll inhale when I go back, exhale to come back up. And I do this about 10 times. Sometimes it'll feel good to be in this position and like rock side to side, so I'll do that as well. And then you could honestly just rest here for as long as you want to. So that is it. Per usual, I'm out of breath by the end of the video. Now when I do this, it usually takes me about 30 minutes. So again, thinking about that mile circuit, this technically is not the mile circuit, but I'm using that mile circuit format because I love it so much. I usually do the inversions that I have in my previous video. I do the sideline for 30 minutes. So inversions for 30 minutes, sideline for 30 minutes. And then I do all of these activities about like 10 times each, or about 2 minutes each. And then that ends up being about 30 minutes as well. So really, really, really helpful. It helps me get through that circuit while I make sure that I have the mobility that I need. One thing that I want to mention that I didn't mention in my previous video is like, what if baby is already in a good spot? Like, what if you go to the hospital and they tell you that baby is already in a good spot and like you don't want to do any inversions because you don't want to flip baby. If your baby was breached before, then I would probably avoid the inversions, right? Just because if your baby is now head down, we don't want to mess with that, right? But I will say that I had a nurse tell me this recently in a triage situation, and I was like, really? Like, I can't do inversions? It's kind of odd. And so I looked up the research on it, and I talked to my OB about it, and my OB giggled because she was like, it's fine. The research shows that inversions really rarely flip baby, right? Which can be a little bit disheartening if you have a breached baby or if you're kind of like not in a great presentation, right? But the research shows that the baby rarely does flip. So if you are going upside down, just to allow those lower uterine ligaments to release, to allow those pelvic floor muscles to release, to allow baby to kind of get the space that they need to tuck their chin and nestle down deeper with all the other moves, then that's safe and that's okay. So I hope that that's helpful for you. That was helpful for me to hear as well. I hope that all of these exercises are helpful and doable for you. And yeah, good luck with preparing for your labor. Wish me luck with preparing for mine, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.